Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar with Cynthia Bampton. For those of you who don't know her, Cynthia is co-founder of the Awaken Life Project with her husband, Peter. And Cynthia is dedicated to helping men and women realize that there is nothing in the way of their freedom here and now, and how to live that spiritual liberation in our daily lives. And with that, I will hand you over to Cynthia.
Okay, hi everybody. Nice to see you all. It's kind of interesting. I was wondering, since we gave the title of this webinar is basically just unlimited possibilities, and when we spoke about it last month, it was basically all of you should come prepared in order to bring to this webinar what you want to talk about. So the idea is that I wouldn't come with the talk and I wouldn't do what I normally would do. So it kind of put a little bit of pressure on everybody that actually would show up to bring something. Otherwise, we might just be sitting here looking at each other for an hour and a half, which I guess could be okay. It might be more challenging than actually talking, but so I was kind of curious to see if everyone was just going to wait for the recording or if people would actually show up and participate. So we do have a lot of people that signed up that aren't here. So I'm thinking they might be going with that strategy, but it's very nice for the people that did come. So let's just take a moment just to meditate for a few minutes together. And we're going to keep it a little bit shorter than usual so we can get started. So if everybody just sits up very straight. Your back is straight, your head is up, shoulders are relaxed, your eyes are closed. And allow yourself to just take a deep breath in through your nose, letting the belly expand. And as you exhale, relax and release any tension you might have in the body. And again, a big inhale, expanding the body, letting the whole being feel the breath coming into the body. And when you exhale, relax and release. And just do this on your own terms. And really feel yourself breathing, filling, and releasing. When you're ready, you can breathe a little bit more normally. But just for these few minutes tonight as we meditate, just allow yourself to enjoy the opportunity to just sit, be aware of the body being breathed, and aware of the life force in the body and around the body. If your mind is busy, it doesn't matter. If your mind is quiet, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're having a deep spiritual experience or just crazy thoughts running through your mind. You are here, present, and aware of all the content that's arising in your awareness. You are not restricted to the body. You are that which is aware of the body. You are that which is aware of the content in the room that you're in. You are that which is aware of any sensation the body may be feeling, and you are the sensation itself. You are life. You are love. Your essence is love, and you are free. Not free to do this or to do that, but your nature, your true nature is that of freedom, free from restriction, free from limiting ideas, free from any contraction, free, not holding on to anything. You are consciousness itself. You are that which is animating everything that you can see, feel, and understand. You are an individual body-mind. And you are the consciousness in which the body-mind appears. You as consciousness is not separate from anything or anyone. There's only one consciousness that's animating all the body minds on this screen tonight and everything else. So you are that one, and you are also this individual expression that you recognize to be yourself. So non-separation, joy, happiness is your natural state. And it is consciousness celebrating itself through all its different forms. And you are an expression of that celebration. We are all an expression of that one. We are all part of this manifest world where that one can either be honored and celebrated and worshiped, or that one can be denied. So each individual expression of consciousness has a choice to deny one's true self or to embrace the truth of who we all are. So as you sit in the last minute or so of this meditation, be aware of the air coming into the body as one modification of consciousness entering another. And as you release, feel that activity, feel that relationship. And understand there is not two. The breath is not one thing going into the body, that's another thing. The body receiving air and releasing air is a play of consciousness that's going on all the time. It's a constant reminder that there is no separation. And it's a constant reminder that you, as a separate self, is not doing anything. The breath going in and out is a constant reminder of non-duality and of life. So if you ever get stressed out and you think that you're separate, just go back to the breath and feel it, receive it, release it, and recognize what it is and who you are. So take another deep breath, and whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay. So this is the last webinar of 2020. Seems like this year, with all the craziness, with all the COVID and all the lockdowns, it seems like this year has just flown by. I can't believe it's the end of 2020, going into 2021. It's kind of mind-blowing. It was only 20 short years ago, for those of you that are old enough to remember it, you know, where we thought the whole world was going to crash when Y2K came in and all the computers didn't have enough zeros or something. And we were all going to fall apart without our computer systems. It's almost like everybody thought their whole body was going to fall apart. So hopefully we've evolved a little bit since then. I think in some ways we have, and in other ways, if you look at 2020, it's kind of like, not sure how good we're doing here. But we're still here. So that's the point. We still have the capacity to evolve, to transform, to be together, and to really find out what life really is and who I really am and why am I really here. But for all of us to do that, we do have to make decisions. We have to make a decision about what our life is really about, and we have to be willing to make a stand on what we think is the most important thing. If you want to transcend the separate sense of self, then you need to make your spiritual life and your deepest understanding the most important thing to you, and you need to make a stand in that. And right now, with all this craziness that we've been dealing with for almost a year now, I think a lot of people have strangely benefited from all the lockdowns, because we've all had to make choices that we never thought we would have to make. And sometimes the choice is just to have a different relationship to your crazy mind when you're locked away in your own apartment by yourself. But we all have to decide what we are willing to, or let me put it this way, we all have to decide how we want to live and what we stand for and why we're here. I used to say this a lot in the early days, like, why are you here? Are you just here, you're born, you grow up, you have a few bad, relationships in high school, you keep going, you get married, you have kids, you shop, you die. And sometimes, it's, you got to look and you got to, it's kind of a sad description of the human life. And I could probably add a couple more things onto that list I just said, but it's not that far away from the way most people live. So obviously, if you're on this webinar, we're all shooting for something a bit higher than that. Is everybody shooting for something higher than that? Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it over to you guys. And all of you are the co-creators of the next hour and 6 minutes. Okay. And I'll do my part, but you have to do your part. And the thing is I already did more of my part than I should have done, because I talked longer than I said I was going to. So now it's your turn to do your part, and then we'll see where we all go. And I tell you, we can go someplace really amazing. And we usually do in these webinars, right? By the end of the webinar, everybody's usually really in love with each other and nobody wants to get off the computer, which is really fantastic. But now it's going to be up to you guys. Okay? So. Okay, Joanna? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. So I think in these times that are really crazy, I think the differences in between what people are standing for is becoming more obvious, and the gaps are becoming bigger. And I'm finding it difficult how to relate without separate. Mm-hmm. I found myself pretty much attached to my way of seeing things, and it's completely separation. So, and because it's becoming more and more obvious, the gap. So this has been a huge theme. Yeah.
But that's a fantastic, it's a fantastic opportunity though to see that. Because one thing about this is, you see, you can have completely different views on things and you never have to separate. So a lot of times people they'll automatically think that if I have a different view, I must be holding a position of separation. Not necessarily. Because you can completely disagree and choose not to take a position of separation. So we've talked a lot about this in our Sangha. You know, how do you take a position in this world of actually be willing to stand for what you understand in any given moment without taking a position of separation? So it's like taking a position in no position. And the no position is not taking a position in separation. And every single person can choose to not separate. So this is super important, because it's not just during the COVID and when we have, you know, all these different views on, you know, is it a virus? Is it not a virus? Is it this? Is it that? You know, should I wear a mask? Shouldn't I wear a mask? It's not about that. It's about, am I fundamentally separate from you? And when I think I'm separate, it usually means that I'm taking a position that I'm right. And and there's a period after the sentence. I am right, period. No space, no inquiry, no interaction, no reaching for anything higher, no reaching for, you know, a unity, to recognize a unity that's already there. And I tell you, this is the opportunity that we have right now, but it's something we do all the time. All you got to do is look at your relationships, you know, from, you know, before March. So before COVID, I mean, you also had a few issues probably with, you know, feeling that separation and imposing that separation. And it really comes from the presumption of each individual. The presumption is always first, the presumption that I am a separate self. And if you believe that you are separate, you will relate to everything else as another. Or you relate to everything or everyone else as an opponent. And if you're relating to everybody else as an opponent or as another, you see, you're always going to have something to protect, which is probably your view. You know, when it's either your view or it's your body or it's your ideas. It doesn't matter. But as long as you have something to protect, I'm here with my ideas. You have your ideas. If I have to protect my ideas, then you become my enemy, because you're the one who's trying to get me to believe something else. But what if we just came together, like, Joanna, let's just have a conversation, right? So we're here. We put our hands up. Okay, so we're having a conversation like this with our hands up. You know, it's like we're in a position of surrender already, right?
Yeah.
And then I say, Joanna, what do you think about wearing masks? And let's say that you think masks are stupid. Okay, so you. Okay.
Well, I think that masks are stupid.
Okay, now, if I'm going to not take a position because I'm in this surrendered position, I would say, really, why do you think that? Can you tell me more about why you think that?
Yeah, because it's hard to breathe with them, and most of the times I think it's not actually protecting the mask that we are using.
Okay, so now let's say she says that to me and I go, okay, so I'm in my position now and I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard of. Don't you know that the virus is going to come through the mask and it's going to get in and it's going to kill all the people around you, and you just don't care about anybody else but yourself? Okay, then I put my, okay, do you see what I'm saying though? Because we can have a conversation and we can strongly disagree. So if I had my hands up and she said what she said about masks, I could just say, you know what? I just don't see it that way. I see it a bit differently, you know, and I actually see it quite differently because I've looked into a lot of the science, and I'm just curious if you're interested in hearing what I know about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I'm more surrendered with that response. Yeah.
Right. You know, so you start a dialogue. We can put our hands down now. But when we start, but if you're dialoguing with somebody, you know, and you're not taking this fixed position, but I said, I took a strong position because I said, actually, there's a lot of science and I don't believe the masks are a problem. Okay, so I did take a position that I think that the masks, you know, are needed. So the idea is that we have to learn to be able to communicate. We have to be willing to listen and to learn, and we have to be willing to drop the position that we think we're right. Because when we think we're right, we think that I'm over here separate from you, and that's the problem. And it happens all the time. You know, it happens, and it's just like, how well are we able to listen with an open heart? You know, even if all of your buttons are being pushed, you know, it's like you're with your partner and the partner is saying something and you're just like, eh, and you can feel it. But you can still choose to be with them. And it's the same thing with all of this stuff that's happening. So really, you know, this whole COVID thing is just really highlighting all the stuff that we normally do anyway. It's just giving us one more thing to separate about. You know, and obviously it's an important, you know, it's a big situation, but look at what it's giving us. I mean, it's freaking people out, which is fantastic, because when we get freaked out, we can find out what we're really afraid of. Right? Instead of just acting like we're really cool. You know, and some people act like they're really cool and they're still afraid. But you know, we can just really learn a lot during this time. It's very exciting. You know, I feel like going into 2021, most people after 2020, see if it's true for you. After 2020, don't you feel like your eyes are more wide open going into 2021 than they were going into 2020? For sure, right? Do you also experience, as you open up more and you have to face your own fears and you have to, you know, engage with people in a different way? Don't you find that you actually experience more connection? And you might be having conversations about really important things with people that you never really would speak about, and you know, you wouldn't really engage too much before. And don't you feel like you know, like we're all in something together in a way that we didn't a year ago? It's really wild, isn't it? So I'm not saying, you know, I'm not trying to make this into some, you know, some kind of nicey nice thing. Well, isn't this whole thing fantastic? But you know, everything is consciousness, and everything that's happening is either going to take you forward or take you down. And so when we're up against something like this, I know my whole worldview has just completely changed from where I was a year ago, as far as, you know, politics or social interactions or who I appreciated before. I appreciate the same people I thought were, you know, were kind of like, I don't know how to say this and sound spiritually correct. um, you know, the same people that I used to think really weren't too open and available and spiritually inclined, you know. So the people who I thought were more kind of redneck types, gun-toting rednecks, for example, it's really funny. I actually really appreciate those people now. So isn't that bizarre? So I appreciate people that I would never have appreciated before. I found out I had a lot of ideas about a lot of things. And when those ideas were blown apart, and I had to really look at myself in a way that I hadn't had before, I was completely liberated, because I had to face the fear to actually see what I was unwilling to see. Very simple things. And I'm sure everybody's gone through that in the last year. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the end of 2020, and I'm very excited about 2021. Anybody else? Okay. So Joanna, it's just all part of the process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank-
because aren't you in a much better place now than you were a year ago?
Yeah, much more. Even though seeing through lots of things that are not nice, but at least, yeah, much more. Yeah.
Yeah, and even, when you go through stuff that you would label as not nice, then again, you have to look and say, okay, what's my relationship to this? Because that which is not nice woke me up.
Yeah.
So is it nice or not nice?
It's good. It has waken me up. Not nice, but good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's only the mind that will come in and label things all the time.
True, yeah.
So if something woke you up and it came with like angels and flowers and butterflies, you would go, wow, that's so nice. But if it comes with being in quarantine with your 2 kids for 2 weeks and all having COVID, you would label not so nice. But I bet you learned a lot in these last couple of weeks.
I did. Yeah.
So then maybe you got butterflies and flowers, but it just looked different.
Other kinds. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool because these are the type of things you see, that's so real. You've gone through something, and that, that will change your life, but it'll change the life of your relationship with your kids because you've been through something together.
Yeah. And it was actually good. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this is it, what is life really about? It's about living it fully, no matter what's going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if nothing bad is going on, why don't we live it fully and go beyond our limiting ideas, right? To see like, how can we all be together? What can we actually do? What can actually happen when we don't know everything? What can happen when, when we feel like we're losing control, or we actually recognize that we've never had any control? What can happen then? Something else comes online, right? Something else comes online, that strength that we all feel in ourselves, but we very rarely give our attention to regularly. So this is it. This is it, here, now, and always. Okay, so who's next?
Yeah, I can speak. Can you hear me?
Hi, Rui. Yep.
Hey. Yeah, I just I totally resonate with this awakening of the crowds, because in my experience is really that this virus is really putting me in touch with what you were expressing, that there is really only one way to live this life, to not create any barrier between me and the other. And this virus is just really bringing me this recognition that there is still hope, because I always lived this life with like feeling very weird, like that the society is going in a direction that is really not like the right direction. And I always felt like we were all numb at some degree. And now I can see that we were really numb, and how numb we were, and how unaware of how society works and how fragile we are. But at the same time, there is a hope. There is like, this that you said, that in a way, I feel that there is, things are being exposed. So there is more realness, and there is more people working together in a real way. So it's like there is no more excuses. Like the things are going down, the structures are going down. So there is an opportunity to wake up and to do something different in a way that I never felt before. And right. I think it is also related to my experience, because I'm more open and I'm more in contact with my heart. So of course I will feel the world is also more open, but at the same time it's not just about me, because I can also feel many people are really in touch with questioning, with really understanding what's going on, and not just people are more open, I feel. Yeah, and this is really, for me, it's really exciting. Like, I'm just really curious to see where can we go. Just this questioning and just this being open. What does that mean for many people to do that? It's really, I don't know. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, and it's cool what you're saying, because the fact that you're more open in and of itself is already a big deal. That's one more person that's open.
Yeah.
You know, and then you see the whole world differently, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, probably, you know, not everybody is waking up and not everybody is open. A lot of people are just afraid and very shut down. But see, your relationship to what's happening, because you're open, changes. Because in a certain way, you know, a couple of years ago, you know, 2 years ago, when I first met you, or 3 years, I don't remember how long it was, but, you know, you were very, yeah, it was kind of hopeless. Like the whole world was just dark and bad. And, you know, it wasn't. And so here we are a short time later, living in a time that's actually more extreme, right? And one could say more hopeless, you know, because so much is going on. And yet, look at the way you're speaking.
Yeah.
See, that's the miracle. That's the mystery right there. How does that happen? Because in a certain way, things are worse now than they were before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I just see much more potential. I just see, yeah, I'm just in touch with how strong we are.
Right.
How strong I am, and how strong we as humans, and especially together. I think that's really empowering. And yeah, together, what we are capable of is just like really, it's unlimited.
Right. And then the reason why you're in touch with how powerful you are is because you are in touch with that which is unlimited.
Yeah.
As yourself.
Yeah.
You see, and then the context is everything, because the context in which you're looking through, whether it be from the limited perspective of ego, where everything is bad, we're all separate, you know, the whole world's going to hell and I'm right, you know, when you actually look through a spiritual context of, you know, truth, freedom, prior freedom, you know, a sense of understanding that with, you know, that your deepest dimension of yourself is always already free. You know, its essence is love. It's unlimited. I am unlimited. And then you start to see all those people you used to call others, and they're just another modification of that one that's always free, always unlimited, and always the essence is love. So that's why you get in touch with an unlimited potential. But you can also get in touch with, and maybe this is what has happened also with you, you also get in touch with a view that is completely different, because the view you were in before was a very small, limited, nothing can happen view. And then you get in touch with the view you're looking through now. You see, and all of a sudden your whole perspective changes. And when your perspective changes and you allow yourself to be animated by that one, then you start to recognize, wow, well, maybe this world isn't supposed to be this way or that way. Maybe there's something else going on here that I had no idea about, and I still have no idea about, but I recognize I have no idea, which makes it even more unlimited, but gives you a lot more faith. So again, isn't this bizarre that you get more faith, you get more unlimited possibilities in a time that is actually worse you could say, than it was a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is the power. This is the power of waking up. This is the power that is available to everybody at any time. And that's why this time that we're living in, with all its intensity, it's a time of great potential because of just what Rui is saying and how he's speaking. But everybody has to make a choice of where you're going to put your attention. What position are you going to take? Are you going to take a position in no position? Or are you going to take a position of being right? Are you going to stand up for what you, sometimes, where we're at right now, and I think why this is such a powerfully positive time, because it's forcing people to take a stand, for very simple ways. And we're not going to get into the politics of what's happening now, but, you just have to ask yourself, if vaccines become mandatory, are you going to, and somebody knocks on your door, are you going to say yes? You're going to say no? So that's a real question that we have to kind of grapple with, or at least contemplate. It hasn't happened yet, but it could. And so these are like real questions. This is not just like spiritual airy fairy stuff, it's real questions of, how do I want to live? What kind of world do I want to live in? Are we willing to take a stand in that without taking a position of separation? And if we are, you see, we're only going to be bringing the best in a practical way, no matter where, no matter what you believe in. If you don't take a separating position, you're bringing something into time and space. And then everything can change, because there's a higher level of consciousness. And then the magic starts to happen. And you start to just look at things differently. You look at other people differently. You look at your own reactivity differently. It's amazing. And very, very simple, very, very simple little things. You start to have conversations with your mother or your father in ways you never did before. You start communicating with your partner in ways you never did before. You actually recognize that you're projecting your own fears and desires out on the world almost all the time, but you recognize it. So you just stop, you start to stop doing it. You start to stop doing it. That's amazing. Because, when we're living a life, if we're living an egoic existence, we're living out of fear all the time. And if we're living out of fear, we are going to constantly project that fear outward. It's just scientific. And where's it going to go? It's going to go to other people. It's going to go to animals. It's going to go to the planet. It's going to go just wherever it goes. But you see, if we recognize, that's one thing with the situation we've been in 2020, because it's forced people to reckon with their fear. But when you start facing your fear, then you also start to see something that is prior to the fear, which is consciousness itself. And then you recognize fear is just another object arising in your awareness. That's all it is. And we have this little saying that I know a lot of you have heard, it's false evidence appearing real. Because fear, when we contract around fear, we think we're a separate self that's isolated and alone and afraid and small and limited and contracted. And when we actually just sit there and go, wow, I'm aware of this. I'm aware that I have this thought that says I'm alone. I have this presumption that says I'm separate. I feel the contraction in my body. But the strange thing is I'm aware of all of it. Geez, all of a sudden there's a little space between all of this. How did that happen? Did I make that happen? Did I do that? Or did I actually just see through fear a little bit, where it went from being who I am to have a little bit of space. And then if you keep going with that and you keep going, I'm not that which is contracted, isolated, limited, afraid. You recognize that fear is really false evidence appearing real. It's not real. It's not who I am. It's never been who I am. It's all been a lie. It's all an illusion. Because I am that which is prior to, and I am this individual body mind. So I'm not denying, just for everybody that's kind of new on this webinar tonight, it's not a denial that you are an individual, but you're not limited to this individual manifestation of consciousness. So you are consciousness, and you are this modification of consciousness. So we're not denying our human experience at all. Just so that's clear. Because there's a lot of ways. Most of the time we're denying our human experience, because we're all denying the fear of death. We had a whole webinar on death, if you want to watch that. That was, I think, very helpful for a lot of people. We're denying, but we're also denying our fear of death. We're denying our capacity to love. We're denying our resistance to loving. We're denying, that we're consciousness itself. Sometimes we deny almost everything. We deny the good stuff, we deny the bad stuff, because we have to maintain a separate position. And so when you start to wake up, you just stop denying everything. So that includes the human experience. Okay, cool. Who's next?
Teresa has her hand up.
Teresa Albaran?
Yeah, it's an electric hand up.
Oh, okay. Teresa, are you there?
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Teresa.
Yes. How are you?
I'm very good. And you?
It's so nice this webinar, because you were just talking, and I had a very I've been having a very different year. You already know a bit my story. I think I've spent all my life doing, not being. And now I decided this year that I was going to be, not to do. And it's, I don't know how to put it. It's
Fantastic.
not only challenging, it's kind of scary. It's scary.
No, but it's
not
only
only challenge.
No, but Teresa, it's only scary because it's new. You're like a little turtle.
Completely new.
Yeah, but it's not, see, this is false evidence appearing real, because your relationship to it is like, oh my God, it's scary. But it only feels scary because it's new. And when you're doing, you're under control. When you stop doing, you feel like you're out of control. And that's new. But you wanted to have a time of just being and not doing. And, the coronavirus came along and helped you to do that. So you could say, thank you very much. You got what you wanted. But you got to recognize that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you see, you got to have more, you got to allow yourself to actually be happy.
I feel what I feel. It's what I feel is when I've started this year.
Yeah.
I was a completely other. I don't know if I was a completely other person, but I feel different, because I thought I knew about everything, and I arrive at the end of the year with being for sure I know nothing.
No, that's not true. You still think you, no. But Teresa, we talked about this before. You still think you know quite a lot, because you think you know what knowing nothing is. And that's, so look,
Okay,
this is our last webinar. Yeah, so this is our last webinar of 2020. So we got to have a break. We have to have some kind of little breakthrough here because this is our last chance, right? In 2020, because I probably won't see you until 2021. So see, right now, can you so the only thing that matters is right this very second. It doesn't matter who you were a year ago. It doesn't matter who, it only matters right now. Okay. So right now we're having a conversation, right?
Right.
Okay, so put your hands up. Okay, good. You're smiling as you're putting your hands up. So you're putting your hands up and you're smiling. And we're having a good time because I like you and you like me, right?
Right.
Do you feel happy?
I feel happy.
Okay, so nothing has changed from this moment to like 30 seconds ago, except for you just decided to allow yourself to be happy. Because nothing has changed other than the fact that you just decided to say, yes, I'm happy. You still got your same problems. We still got everything that's happening. You still have the same history you had before, right? Right?
Yeah, but I feel
Teresa?
I'm trying to follow you. Hands are up.
Okay, so I'm keeping it very, very simple. Okay, so right now, can you feel your resistance to being happy?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so when I asked you, see, you're smiling again though. Okay, so when I asked you a moment
No,
ago,
okay, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Okay, what do I mean?
Teresa, let it go.
Yes.
No,
Teresa,
let it go.
What are you letting go of?
Control.
No, what you're letting go of in this moment?
Control.
No, you're not letting go of control. You're letting go of your addiction to unhappiness. Okay, and this isn't just directed to you. People are addicted to being unhappy. Everybody says, I want to be happy, but you give them an opportunity to be happy and nobody wants to do it. Okay, so you're just addicted to being unhappy. Nothing has to change other than you just saying, I'm happy, no matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel because your true essence is that of happiness. Okay, so it's really, really good to see the resistance. I can put my hands down, I'm getting tired. But you can feel the resistance in you to be happy, and that is a good thing to become aware of. Because if you recognize there's resistance, we could call it the big no. No, I will not be happy. That's what ego is. No, I will not be happy. No, I will not give. Okay? When you just said, yes, I'm happy, you see, that's more leaning toward the big yes. And then you can give. You can give happiness just because of who you are. When you shift your attention away from the addiction of unhappiness. You've heard me say a lot of the stuff about shifting the attention. You see, because there's something in you. Why do you keep coming to these webinars? Something's got to break because you keep coming and you hear me say these things and I think something touches you, right?
Right.
Okay, that's why you keep coming.
Right.
Okay.
No, I keep coming because everything you say makes a lot of sense, and I like very much to listen to you.
I know.
And I've been learning a lot with you and growing with you.
I know. And it makes you happy, right?
I'm very happy.
Okay, so what I want you to do is just give that. You have to give that more because when you allow yourself to express happiness, you see, it's infectious for other people. And anybody can do it at any time. So, you know, obviously the part, you know, you could say the part of ourselves. I don't like to talk about this way because it sounds like we're like some kind of schizophrenic where we have like the ego part and the other part, and they're always in conflict with each other. It's only in every moment, in every single moment, you can just decide where your attention is. And if you put your attention on your own heart's longing, which brings you to these webinars, and you allow yourself to feel it, you will express happiness. But if you put your attention on your resistance to being happy, you will express unhappiness. And you will always think you have a problem. But you don't have a problem because there's only this moment now. And we're together.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know you know what I mean, but I want you to let it touch your heart and like melt it. Break down the resistance, you know? Right. I want you to be a big blob of love on the floor right now. Okay. Okay. You see, that feels a lot better than, you know, a year ago, I thought I knew everything and now I know I don't know anything. This feels so much better.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Feels much better.
Yeah. Okay, good. And you know what? I don't know what happened, but the room in your light, the light in your room just got lighter because we can all see your face now, which is, it's a miracle, isn't it? Anyway, it's so good to hear you laugh. So I want, every time I want you to get on this webinar, I want you to really bring this and not just wait a month in between, but when you wake up in the morning, bring your own lightness of being and happiness to yourself in the morning and start that way. Okay? Like wake up every morning, wake up, sit up in your bed and just force yourself to smile. It'll be great. And you'll feel really silly, but that's okay.
That's no problem.
Okay, good. Good, good. All right. Good. It was very nice to hear you laughing. It was good, huh, you guys? Very good. See?
Very good.
Yes. Okay.
Thank
Good.
you, Cynthia.
Okay. You're welcome, Teresa. I can't wait to see you next month with a big smile on your face.
It's a promise.
Okay, good. Okay, who's next? Don't hold back.
Yeah, can I just share a little bit about what was going on with Teresa? Because I think it's really important what you were saying about allowing ourselves to be happy, because there's this, at least in my experience, there's this whole idea that I shouldn't feel happy because there's a lot of chaos going on, and that's just a denial of what is really there, and it's just a denial of love, because yeah, I'm happy, so what? It doesn't matter what's going on. I'm just happy and that's it. And it doesn't touch that is something bad or not bad going on. I'm just happy underneath. And I think it's really important to allow ourselves to really acknowledge that, because yeah, for me, for a long time, I really denied this happiness, and it's such a liberation to really just say it. I'm happy, and that's it.
Right. It's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, do you think the world right now needs more heavy and responsible people?
No.
Do you think that we need more people who are willing to express their own authentic happiness, which is their true nature? And no matter what you choose, if you're going to be the heavy responsible one, all you're going to do is pull on every other person to be a heavy, responsible person with you. And then we can all walk around and be heavy and responsible, which is kind of the world we have most of the time. Or we can just be ourselves. That natural happiness that's already inherent in who we are comes forward. And what does it do? It invites everybody else to recognize that in themselves.
Yes.
And then what do? We don't know what to do because it's a whole new way to live. You know, we're in an unknown situation because when we both know who, you know, everybody knows who they are and they've got their problems and here's my problems, here's your problems. We all know who we are. We know how to act. But what if all of a sudden we're like, oh, I don't know who I am. I'm not so sure that I'm this person with a big problem. Gosh, I'm actually connecting to something that's real and true and raw and happy. And other people are doing that. And then you meet, and sometimes you just end up smiling at each other because you don't really know what to do or what to say. Because you're not going with the old script. You've just gone off script. So much better than being on script. What's more unlimited, off script or on script? Don't you ever feel like a robot? You're just like blah, 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 blah. And then you're talking to someone, they're completely uninterested in what you're saying. You're completely uninterested in what they're saying, and you're acting like you're really interested and they're really interested and nobody gives a shit. And you're just blah, blah, blah. We all know what that's like, right? But that's not what we're interested in. And just for a lot of you guys that are on the call, I mean, most of the people on this call are part of our Sangha. And then there's some new people, but, you know, as we come together and we are committed to recognizing our true selves and realizing that we can actually live that deepest understanding. You see, we start to come together in something that is far beyond anything that the individual could experience alone. And something starts to happen between us where we don't even know who we are. And then we're together in a way that we could never have imagined. You know, really, for real. You know, and the mind wants to come in and say, yeah, but this, yeah, but that, you know. But it takes you to a place that you can't imagine. And then you recognize where it's taking you to is to truth, is to reality, into being able to live in a completely different way with other human beings. You know, and we do touch that a lot on this webinar. We touch it a lot, and it's amazing. We're all on these different screens. There is no time. There is no space. It's proven every time we get on a webinar, and everyone right now, can you feel the focus and the interest and the curiosity? And nobody's sitting there going, oh, I'm separate. I have a big problem. Let me tell you about it. No, everyone's just like, wow, what's going to happen next? Is that true? It's true, right? You're just like curious. You're naturally curious, like, wow, this is cool. We're all together and we have no idea what's going to happen next. Amazing. Albert.
Yeah, my heart, my body has one huge smile right now.
Me too.
Yeah, so I may be mirroring yours, but and I, you know, it's just so funny because, you know, when I was listening to Rui speak about hope, maybe hopelessness, and how the collective and this, you know, we talk about the Sangha and the collectiveness of these webinars too and what it does. I remember when I was in my 30s, a half a life ago, and I went to my first adult children of alcoholics meeting. And I stayed with that program for at least a year, full time, once a week. But after the first evening, when I thought I was this separate individual, this person who was the only one in the world that grew up with an alcoholic, within an alcoholic household, I was so relieved by that, by just that. And it was a spiritual program, it was just for children of alcoholics. So, but I never recognized the impact of the collective until today, and how much me just going through that healing period for whatever time frame it was, actually it's been my whole life that I've been going through, was really significant.
Yeah.
And then when you were speaking with Teresa, I was saying to myself, and I'm not saying this is right, but it's kind of funny, because there was this, because we were talking about the fear of dying, last time. And then as she's speaking and you two are having this playful conversation, I'm getting the notion that there's a fear of living here. So we got the fear of dying, we got the fear of living.
Right.
And I'm saying, well, what else is there? So it's like, it's the fear of not living. I mean, think about, and then I say to myself, I think most of my life I have feared not living, which is not about dying, because I don't relate to that very well, right? It's not living. I don't relate to that. I mean, I'm not fearful of living, but I'm fearful of not living. So here's the thing that I think these last 3 years have brought to me, is that my fear of not living, this is going to could sound stupid, I don't know. My fear of not living actually had me lead a very superficial life. It was superficial in that, living had this, not living made me do things, whether it was, whatever it may have been, right? Sexually or whatever it could have been, right? Yeah, and it was so superficial. And the richness that I now have in my life has to do with not having superficial relationships anymore. And I think as a result of that, I mean, I'm almost like I take every relationship as an adventure, not an escape artist, so to speak, running away from this stupid situation, and or whatever it is, or, flee or, freeze. It's like, this is a real adventure. And how can I grow from it? And what I'm seeing is that I think now that I've released this notion of superficiality and go deeper into who I truly am, and realizing how much relationships are key to that, I'm finding, and I don't even know what the definition of love is, but I'm saying my love now is my commitment to these relationships that I have in my life.
Well, aren't there a relation, I got a little lost on the not living and the living business, but I think it was interesting because when you were talking, I kept thinking, is he talking about not living as far, anyway, I got a little confused, but it doesn't matter, because when you said superficiality, what I would ask you is, it seems like you stopped having a superficial relationship to the life that you've been given. So your relationship to that body mind named Albert became, there was a desire for depth and not superficiality.
Yeah.
And so when that changes, then all of your relationships will change. But the only thing that's really important is, what's your relationship to the life that you're living here and now? Because you've gone through things, you've had to face things, you've had to open up to things, you've had to face fear, you've had to, you've embraced a lot of things maybe that were uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't think it could have happened any sooner. And like COVID was like the icing on the cake. because it actually brought me more aware of the undesire to live a superficial life, especially with relationships.
Yeah, well, that's because, though, if you're unsatisfied with a superficial relationship to your own heart, you would also be satisfied with superficial relationships. But when you start recognizing your own heart, you understand that you are not separate from anything.
Yes.
And you start, I just know, I mean, I know you've done things other than with us over these last 3 years, but being with us in the context that you've been in, you have experienced deeper relationship, I think, than you ever had before.
By far, yes.
Right. In a different context that had it had nothing to do with history. It had nothing to do with the people, the people that you were with when you were with us in retreats. You didn't know them. There was no history. There was no personal anything, but everybody met in something prior to all of that. But we did it consciously in these individual body minds with all these individual unique expressions of that one consciousness. And what came forward was always different and always the same. And so but there's a depth of relationship. But it's very interesting because when you think of relationship, you always think of two. There has to be two to be in a relationship, right? But the depth of relationship we're talking about is not two. That's what non-duality means. Because if we say it's one, it's confusing because obviously you're there and I'm here. We got these two individual body minds. So you can say one, there's one consciousness that's manifest, that's animating both of these bodies. But so we can say not two, because it covers the relative experience of two different body minds, but it doesn't deny that one consciousness that's animating both of the body minds. And so there's a depth of relationship because what is deeper than no separation? What can be deeper than that? Nothing, right?
Nothing. No.
So when you get in touch with that kind of relationship, then that's what you're looking for in your other relationships, even if you don't have the same context, even if you're people that have no idea about anything that we're talking about, but you're able to meet them from a different perspective because you know about what we're talking about.
Right. And I almost as a corollary to it, maybe you can help me with that. This has been very helpful, by the way, especially making the association with the Awaken Life Project. But yeah, it's like I have this great desire to be, I'm going to frame it differently, but and it's not egoic, I don't think, at least I don't feel it is, but to be in service of others. That's become much more important to me. And I'm viewing that as an aspect of love growing within me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's effortless.
Well, it's effortless because you're surrendered to when you surrender to that which is prior to the egoic, the ego I, then there's a willingness to serve. And that willingness to serve is not about you getting anything out of it. That's what service is. Service isn't the ego getting something out of it. That's arrogance, But real service is you bow down, you sacrifice your own separate self. You sacrifice that. You're willing to serve, you're willing to give. And basically you're willing to love and you're willing to be happy. And then you're willing to do whatever you're called to do, even if it's not your preference.
Yeah.
And you're willing to do things. And don't you find in your situations when you're willing to go beyond your comfort zone and you're willing to serve, that you find that you're able to respond to any given situation in ways that you never knew you could possibly do?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you hear things coming out of your own mouth that you don't even know how you know them.
Exactly. And the creativity and the magnetism that emerge. I feel all of that stuff without ever saying it. I just know it, you know,
Right.
it's great to.
It has nothing to do with Albert, right?
I don't make it part of me anymore.
Yeah, no, I know, but but what I'm saying that has nothing to do with Albert is because the idea of who Albert was before is so not who you are.
Mm.
You know, and I remember, so I'm just excited about this because it's the last webinar of 2020, right? So it sounds like, and you tell me if I'm right, it sounds like we got rid of the Albert project and the notebook of Albert. Did we get rid of the Albert notebook?
We got rid of the Albert notebook. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And you guys,
I can't even find the old ones anymore.
but Albert actually had a notebook that it said Albert's project or Albert's Enlightenment Project. I don't remember what exactly said, but anyway, he did have a notebook. That's why this is like completely, this is fantastic.
So there's advice to Teresa too. No more projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of your getting over everything project. You know, because we're running out of time a little bit, but you know, if we can get very, very interested, everybody get interested in this movement of seeking, always seeking for something different than you already are, or always seeking for something different than that's already happening. This movement to seek is the movement away. It's the movement toward the, you know, the Albert project. It's a movement to the Sandra project. It's a movement to the project. And all you're doing is busy trying to fix your, you know, your ego. And then you never actually stop. Just stop. Stop seeking, stop reaching, and you just stop. And then what's left? It's happiness, it's joy, it's you. Free from your enlightenment project, which is so full of shit. I hate to tell you guys, but this enlightenment project, it's your ego project. That's what it is. So you want to leave your ego project behind. And the way you do it is you recognize this movement of always looking for something different than what you already have and who you already are. And there's a presumption in that seeking. Because if you know that there is only one consciousness, that unity is already true, you see, the movement of seeking is a denial of that which you already know is true. Because why do you need to seek for something that's already the case? And everybody's seeking all the time. It's just, that's the world we live in. It comes from this presumption that I'm a separate self. And all you got to do is just see through that presumption. You know, and sometimes that's minute by minute by minute by minute. But then eventually you get to the point where you just know it's not true anymore. I am not a separate self. And then you recognize that there's a momentum of habit that you have to take care of, which is not a problem, but you're transcending that momentum of habit in the context and the understanding of prior freedom. You see, that's why context is everything.
That's great. It's like having no agenda.
Exactly.
Like this session is about no agenda.
Exactly.
And my heart my body is one big smile.
I know. With no agenda.
With no agenda.
And that's what it means to be in service, you know? And a lot of people want to be in service, but they want to be the one who's in service. But real service means you give up the one.
Yes.
And then you act. And then you be, and then you're surprised. And then you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm living this amazing life. I could never have imagined it. I'm doing things I never would have thought I'm doing. Or maybe you're doing the same thing, but it's completely new.
But it's more magical. It feels more magical or has more meaning or both.
Yeah. And it's so unknown, right? You just.
Yeah. And it's an adventure.
I mean, in a certain way, if you kind of, this is a good image, you know, it's like taking the next step, and the next step doesn't happen until you take it, and then the next one. But it's not like the footprints are already in the sand and you're following, you know, something already known. It's emerging in every moment as you respond. And that's really what's happening. Everyone thinks there's this rigid kind of thing going on in life, but really it's moment to moment, choice to choice. Everything is arising and falling away right here, right now. There's yesterday doesn't exist. It only exists if you're thinking about it now. The future doesn't exist. It's only there if you're thinking about it now. There's only now. So anybody right now, there is absolutely nothing missing. So even if the person you love the most is not in the room with you right now, if you don't impose any separation, you see, there's nothing missing. No one is missing. Nothing is missing. It's amazing to actually think about it. And you could say, well, is anything missing? After this webinar, think about it. Is anything missing? And then and be honest with yourself. You go, well, yeah, this is missing or that's missing. You go, really? Is it really missing? And then you think about it and you go, well, actually, no. I mean, you know, if you're craving ice cream and you don't have any ice cream, you could say the ice cream's missing, but fundamentally nothing's missing. And then you realize it's not about the ice cream. So there you go.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too, and Happy New Year. Does anybody else have anything they want to say? It doesn't have to be long. Okay, I don't know what your name is. Person next to Leva.
Yeah, hi, my name is Yuri.
Hi, Yuri.
Hi, thanks for giving us the space to ask you. I'm quite new in this awakening process. I just arrived 1 month ago in Avidanja, and I already read a bit of Pete's book, and he speaks about we can start awakening process when we have already a healthy ego. And I wanted to ask you what exactly means a healthy ego.
Well, there's lots of different definitions for ego. And so a healthy ego, some people will say, and I think this is what Pete's referring to, it's an operating system within the individual. So you want to be able to discern. It means that you're mentally stable. A healthy ego means that you're mentally stable. You're not somebody who's, you know, unstable in that way. When we talk about so if this path that we're talking about right now, it's not for somebody who's mentally unstable.
Mentally unstable means like when you have some mental disorders in this case, like.
Well, it means basically, I'm trying to think of the word that I want and it's not coming to me. It's like you're a relatively functional human being and you can discern, you can discriminate, you can use your mind to understand things, you can withstand adversity, you can deal with stress, you can respond to difficult things in life. So it's like you have a healthy operating system. That's what some people will say from a psychological point of view. You can have a healthy ego because you have a some people call it the self-organizing principle. That's the words I was trying to think of. So you actually have the capacity to function relatively well as a human being in the world that we live in. What ego is in what we're talking about it from a spiritual context, it's the insistence that you're separated, isolated, and alone, and limited. So it's the presumption that I am a separate I, I am separate from God. I am separate from you. I'm separate from everything else. I am alone and I am limited. So that's the definition we're using for ego when I say the ego I. So the ego I is in direct contradiction to the truth that there is only one consciousness and I am that, and you are that. So that's the definition we're using for ego. But when Pete is talking about having a healthy ego, he's talking about having a self-organizing principle that keeps you to be a functional human being. Because when you start getting interested in the spiritual path, and you start facing into your own attachment to the presumption that you're separate, it can create a lot of heat. It can create friction. When you start to see through the illusion of the separate self, you actually start to see through who you think you are. Okay, so if you think you're Yuri with you're from a certain country, you're a certain age, you have these problems, you don't have those problems, you're good at this, you're not good at that, you have a certain history, you had a difficult childhood or you had a fantastic childhood, but you have all this history that you label as being who you are. When you start to transcend the separate self, you start to recognize that you are not just that. You are not the historical Yuri that you think you are. You are that which is prior to. You are that which is aware of everything. You're aware of what you're thinking. You're aware of what you're feeling. You're aware of your history. You're aware of your struggle. You're aware of your suffering. Okay, you start to recognize that I am not just that. You get in touch with something prior to, but you see in that transition, if you don't have a healthy ego and you are actually seeing that I don't know who I am outside of all these ideas, but you recognize that you are something outside of all of those ideas, but you don't know what that is. It causes a lot of tension in the human being. It causes friction. It causes, you could say, instability. So if you don't have a healthy ego and you're recognizing this instability that you're not who you thought you were, if someone doesn't have a healthy ego, that can be dangerous for them. So it does. Most people, nobody on this call is in that state of not, their ego is, you have a healthy enough ego or you wouldn't be on this call.
Okay.
So I don't want you to be afraid of like, oh my God, am I like going to make it? Or is this too much for me? That's not where I don't want to take you there, but you asked this question. But sometimes it's a very demanding thing that we're talking about, to liberate yourself from the illusion of the separate self, to go beyond who you thought you were, who you've been convinced you are, to live a life of open-handed surrender and response. Constant response challenges everything in a human being. And that's the awakening process. But it's very alive, like Rui was saying, it's very alive. It's the difference between being asleep and awake. And we're talking awake. We're not talking about just walking around with your eyes open, half asleep. We're talking alert, awake to who you are. And if have you had an intuition of that?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I was going to say,
Yeah.
because during this webinar, you were with it the whole time. Everything I was saying, I could tell you were completely there, completely with it, lit up by it. You knew something was being activated. You see, so you've already waking up to something, and now just keep giving yourself to that. And then you'll live a life of constant amazement as your illusion of your separate self completely dissolves and disappears. And it's not going to be easy. It's not just all, la la, happiness, joy, haha. Sometimes it's friction, sometimes it's intensity, sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's scary.
Yeah,
But the
I
thing
experienced that.
You've experienced that?
Yeah, I got already challenged here. So so yeah, I already came in contact with that. And yeah, I'm looking forward, I'm looking forward what comes next.
So you see, that's it right there, because that is your true self speaking. Because you're looking forward to what's next. You don't care if you've been challenged.
Mm.
In fact, did you appreciate that you've been challenged?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted that, and I feel like I need that as well.
Well,
That's also a result of when we talked before about the coronavirus. So it was also a result when the whole thing started. I said, okay, now it's time to do something. I didn't know what to do, and now I ended up in Abhidanja, and I feel like, okay, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You see, isn't it amazing that when you say I ended up at Abhidanja, isn't that a mystery? It's just mysterious how these things happen.
No.
Yeah. Like, how did we all end up on the screen together tonight? It's just far out when you think about it. It just brings, again, another big smile to your face, and you just go, wow, there's something going on here that's so much better than all the ideas I have about myself. Well, cool. I hope we meet you then.
Hope so too.
You can come and visit us here.
Yeah, I think next week probably.
Are you going to come when are you coming? Oh, are you coming for our work day?
I'm not sure.
The women's group.
The women's group. And I get a tour with hopefully Bernard.
Oh, he's on there.
And Rui comes with me.
Oh, okay, great.
Hope to see you.
Yeah, you'll see me. I was going to say, when you said I'm going to come to the women's group, I was going to say, well, Yuri, I got to tell you, you can't to the women's group. But I'm glad you're coming with male escorts, and they'll show you around.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, anyway, I'll see you next week then.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, I think we got to call it a night, guys. It's very exciting, very good. We should do an all-night webinar and see where it takes us. I keep coming up with these ideas, and then after I get off, I go, what was I thinking? Anyway, we'll see where it goes. But very good to see everybody. And if everybody wants to turn their cameras on, if you feel so inspired. Yeah, so obviously we're going to keep doing the webinar. So I hope we see everybody again. And yeah, and have a very good holiday time, and a Happy New Year. And Pete is doing a New Year's retreat at Abhidanja still, so I think there's some spots left. If anybody's interested, you should all go. Well, maybe not all of you, because I don't think there's enough spots, but at least some of you. Yes. So should we open up the microphones? Oh, do you want to say something first? You don't need to say anything. Okay, she'll send out recordings. Yeah, and we always say, we do the webinar by donation. So if you'd like to make a donation, we'll send you the information about that. And we're putting the schedule together for 2021, and there's new and exciting things coming. So if you want to engage more with me and with the Awaken Life Project, there's going to be opportunities to do so. So take advantage of it. If you and then keep coming and tell your friends, the more the merrier. Okay, let's open the microphones. And
thank
Bye.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Muito amor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Christmas, everybody.
Hello.
this will be our new
Hello, Michael.
Hey, Daisy in Ireland.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
And Alan. No, the other people. You know what, Rui and Anesh? Laura and I, at the beginning of the webinar, we were, when you guys came on, we thought you looked like a rock star couple.
Yeah, it looks. That's cool.
Why rock star?
What was that?
Hair, I think. And you're non-hair.
Long hair.
Okay. And I'm letting my hair grow.
Your hair,
also.
Louis.
Getting there.
Way to go, Roy.